Ampire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. Happy Friday. Here come the Giants, our nightmare.
Disaster awaits in Landover.
They're like, it's the worst because they never have good seasons, but they beat us. It's just so annoying. Like I don't even understand it. But maybe the page is turning here, Callow. Whole new thing going on here. If you walked around that locker room and said, well, what about all the last 5 years against them? Most of these guys are like, haven't been here, playa. So, hopefully we turn the page this weekend, get a win in the home opener.
Yeah, I mean, hope's all we got at this point. So, yeah, sure. Let's hope so. I did see yesterday, I'm sure you saw as well, Wale halftime show for week one. How about that?
Yeah, Wale halftime show.
He gonna join you in the booth there? I know he's one of your favorite guests.
If he wants to, he's welcome. Come on up. Come on down. Let's go. I am all for the celebrities coming by and stopping in for a minute. It's just we've learned when the team's about to score a touchdown, you have to turn their mics off, because otherwise they just start screaming at the top of their lungs. So,
Terry McLaurin making an amazing catch against the Chargers. Yeah.
We have a camera now in the booth, so I'd love to have Wale pop by. That would be awesome.
All right. There you go.
That'd be really good. All right, let's get to it. How are we going to beat the Giants? Okay. It starts with, for some reason, this never seems to happen, but we need to discomfort Dimes. That's what we have to do. In game one of his return off, and this is what was the most unfair thing about them, like literally shaming him to his car after the game the other day, is he's off an ACL injury. Like, they seem to have forgotten that part with him, that like this was his first game back, and they didn't do a lot of design runs with him, probably on purpose, which is actually a pretty good sign for us because he's killed us with his feet. Really is what he's really where he's killed us through the years. So if they're not going to do a lot of that, I think that kind of takes away his most consistent weapon. The thing that he's really good at and he's exceptional at actually is the zone reads and the fakes. And he's actually, but I don't know now, off an ACL, he's actually very fast. Like, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, he's actually really fast. And when he gets out into open space, he gets chunk yardage on the ground. They didn't do a lot of that with him against Minnesota. Might be a sign that he kind of, at this point in his recovery, can't do that. So that's a really good, I hope, sign for us to start with. And then secondarily, he wants to throw to his first read so bad. And if it's not there, he will start, the feet will start moving funny. He'll start pump faking a little bit. A play against the Vikings last week, he drifted into the rush. Like, he will do things like that and kind of blow up drives if you get him uncomfortable. So this one is schematic to me. This is about Joe Witt and company coming up with ways to make him feel uncomfortable, that figuring out what his first read may be. Because once you get him to the second or the third, and especially with a little bit of pressure, he has a problem in the pocket, will turn the ball over. So, I mean, that to me is, for the defense, is the game. He just can't get comfortable. That's all.
No, I mean, that's always what he does to kill this team, is get comfortable. And I would say the one, and I talked about that earlier this week, one of the positives from this was they were getting to Baker. They just weren't wrapping him up. And so you have to hope some of that translates a little bit this week, where they can get to Dimes and actually take him down a few times. And look, I think, this is going to coincide with, they need to kind of like rattle this offense right off the bat. Like, they need to get the morale down fast. Yes. To get the Giants kind of like, oh crap, here we go again. And that's going to that starts with Dimes. Like, I think you need to take Dimes out and everything else falls behind.
Yes. I don't think we can have what happened with Tampa, where they just kind of walked down the field and scored. And yeah, I know it was only field goals, but like, their offense was humming early. I think in this case, I agree with you. I think if they have a 3 and out or an ugly couple of plays, and it's not like, forget just like a drop or anything like that. Like, he's scrambling and chucks the ball like 10 yards past the receiver, or it just looks bad. I think that could kind of start the ball rolling to what I'm talking about here. We want him to be uncomfortable. And if he's not going to be the runner that he's been, probably because he's off the ACL, then I don't know what, this is something for them to talk about. And this is probably part of why it looked so bad a week ago. If he's not going to run the ball very much, they're going to have a really hard time having any kind of consistency on offense because I like Devin Singletary. He's a fine running back. He is not Saquon Barkley. They have a similar issue that I think Washington has now without Barkley, where outside of Neighbors, who I assume is going to have he looks great. He's going to have a bunch of big plays this year. That's kind of it for the explosive players. Like Waller's not there anymore, so their tight ends are their tight ends. They have an upside of this rookie Theo Johnson, but like we'll see. The other receivers, like Slayton's good. Hyatt didn't play very much. You know, the running backs are not going to have explosive plays anymore. If he's not going to run the ball, they're going to have a hard time moving the ball down the field. And I agree. Like, we just need to make him uncomfortable because that's when the mistakes seem to happen, like the bad sacks, the bad choices, like all of that stuff. And if he's not going to run, that's his best weapon. And they're in trouble long-term with him if that's what it's going to be. But for this week, we need to make it that way. That's just the bottom line. He needs to be uncomfortable. That's all.
I think I even told you this. I thought my theory on Dayball was going to be if they wanted to get rid of him, they were going to actually run him a lot. Well, I guess I just kind of forgot. Like, he might not be the same after this injury, and that's clearly the same. At least right now. Like, Kirk didn't look right either in week 1 after a major injury. So it might take a couple weeks. I think this does fall into the line of maybe this is when we play the Giants, when we can beat them, is when he's not, upright and running every other play.
Fridays are the day I get to talk to Dan Quinn for the purpose of the broadcast. As we're doing this right now, I haven't done so yet. So I have nothing. So that's good. I don't have to not say anything. I don't know what he would say to me, but this will be the first time that I'm going to plant the seed that I planted on Ron, that I tell everybody who's associated with this organization, I just remind them of the most preposterous streak that this team has. And I don't think it's going to happen this weekend because I don't think our defense is functioning like that yet. But considering how bad their offense was a week ago, they averaged 3.5 yards a play. Like, that would be in 68 plays. It wasn't like they didn't have the ball a lot. They did. That's ridiculously bad. Like, you can't move the ball. This team has not shut anybody out since September of 1991. So today may be the day that I just plant that seed for the rest of this season. It's something that there are a couple things that I can't wait to call, and that's one of them. I write it on my board every week. The last time this team shut anybody else was 1991. It's like a stretch of 400 and something games. The next closest streak isn't even half that. It's like an absurd statistic about this team. And not that I think it's going to happen, because I just don't think our defense is functioning like to that level at this point. But that's an offense you could do it to. It is. Like, if your defense is at a high level, you could do it to them off of what I saw a week ago. The Vikings were quoted saying they pitied them.
No, they were the ones saying they felt bad for Daniel Jones. I
Yes.
mean, that's even, and as I said too, like, it's business as usual. You usually don't have any kind of feelings, period. The fact that they did feel that bad for him knows that they knew just how bad things were as well.
Okay, so I think, one is just, can we make Jones uncomfortable, hopefully get some mistakes, and I'll get to the larger idea on that in a moment. But on the other side of the ball, I'm very interested to see what Jaden game 2 is, because he seems to improve day to day. And I'm not just saying that. Like, I saw it in practice. The coaches talked about this. He would do something, and then suddenly it was like learned behavior. Like, he's a cheat code. Like, all of a sudden, like, when he learns something once, he doesn't make the same mistakes twice. Now, we haven't seen it in game speed, and this is an interesting group. Last week, the Giants blitzed about 20% of the time against Darnold, who, obviously is not nearly as mobile as someone like Jaden, but this is a very different style of defense. It's not Wink Martindale anymore. They're going to trust their guys up front. That's where their studs are. And, will they blitz Jaden more off of what happened last week? I don't know. I'm not sure I would love him extending plays against their secondary. So I don't think we're going to get that. What we're going to get this week is a full-on, let's find out who our offensive linemen are mano a mano, because the game's on the edge here. Like, when Dexter Lawrence, and I'll get to him in a minute, because I think he's a top 2 or 3 defensive tackle in the NFL right now. But to me, we're going to find out. Kayvon Thibodeau's got incredible stats. Not unlike Daniel Jones. He's got like 5 sacks against Washington. He's got like 9 others in his career. So, like, not unlike Daniel Jones, he really eats against Washington. He's a very high-level player, but the stats kind of aren't there across the board unless he plays the Commanders. And on the other side, Brian Burns, of which I got to tell you, I was surprised the way they were using him in the first week. He was less coming upfield and lining up off the edge. He was out in coverage a lot, which I actually found very odd of a usage of him. And I have a feeling that that's going to change. We're going to find out a lot about Wiley, Coleman, Lucas, whoever it is on the edges and how they handle it, because that is by far not close. Their best position group should be the strength of their team. And this week isn't about figuring out where the rushes are coming and who's doing the loops and all the faux pressures. This is mano a mano. Can you block Pro Bowl level rush ends on the edge? And that to me is the game.
No, at least on the Giants side of things, you're right. Like Thibodeau was the main reason I think they lost that Sunday night game. Remember, like they got jobbed at the end of that, but I think didn't he have a touchdown? I feel like he had a touchdown or like a strip sack of Heineke in that game. But he's one of those guys that, yes, for some reason, every time
he scored. I think you're right. I think he scored or it was like at the 1 or something like that. Yeah.
But he's one of those guys that I always look at when I watch the Giants when they're not playing us. I'm always like, why is he such a beast against us and no one else, essentially? Yeah. And then Lawrence, I think it was Kingsbury yesterday, and I'm hard to disagree with him. I think he said with Donald out, Donald retiring, he said Lawrence is right up there as like the best defensive tackle or one of the best D tackles in the league. And I would agree. Yeah, I'd agree with you on that, with him on that one. And to me, this one is just, can the offense survive that pass rush? Like Jaden's going to make them pay a couple of times, but they need to survive it. And like, we're already seeing, I think it was Ferluga that wrote a piece this week of saying they can't keep running them like this. We've seen this before. And I know it's just one game, but they need to make sure that they don't, rely on Jaden to be like a bell cow running back, essentially. Yeah. I fear, though, the only way they're going to beat this front is if he does that, though. So
that was, I thought Kingsbury handled those questions really well yesterday when I listened to him, because he even said, he was like, it was his first game, and the clock was like, this is how I felt about it Sunday night into Monday morning. We were talking about it all week. I'm like, his clock just needs to slow down. This was his first go. He was taking on a team that's going to bring exotic pressures constantly. It's what they do. They weren't going to back off. They blitzed him 40% of the time. So a couple of times he took off. And if you go and rewatch, you'll see there were a couple he should have hung in there and thrown the ball, or there were a couple he should have extended and not run and thrown the ball. But I think he's going to learn from it. That's my point here. And everybody is talking about, he doesn't, no one is asking him to do that. So I think there's an overreaction to the amount of carries he had. He's a rookie quarterback who played his first game against a team that pressures a lot. In a couple of cases, had big time free rushers right up the middle that he eluded. And I'll go back to his instincts on this stuff is great. He doesn't put the ball, didn't, at least last week, put the ball in harm's way. He didn't throw errant passes that were dangerous. He didn't try to throw across his body. His instincts in these moments are really good, which is a really, really, really good sign. I'm convinced he is going to learn from all this. He's going to get better. And this is a very different defense this week. They're going to have to block high-level rush ends and maybe the best defensive tackle or one of them in the game right now. They're going to have to learn how to block those guys, because this team, I don't think man-to-man down the field, even if you don't think our receiving group is that strong, I don't think their secondary can withstand a Wink Martindale type approach. Because if Daniels were to escape and to extend plays, this isn't just us. This is anybody against them. I don't think that they could possibly feel that confident to put those guys on an island. And they couldn't last week against the Vikings. And granted, one of them is Justin Jefferson. But if you look around the outside of the rest of it, it's not like they're scary. So, I don't know how they would do that consistently against us. And we'll see. All right. The other one is Dexter Lawrence, which is a big deal. This is not unlike last week when they played Vita Vea. There's a marked difference of their run defense. When Vea's on the field, the metrics even showed it. We went into it, and it was like Tampa Bay gives up almost a full run more per carry when Veda's off the field. It is a similar thing. And if you go watch the Vikings last week, the second Lawrence was off the field, there were gaping holes, especially in the center of the line or on the edges. So you got Thibodeau and Burns, who are outstanding edge rushers, will loop around. Without Lawrence in the middle, you can run on these guys. So this idea that we can be a power run team and the ball should be going into the hands of Robinson and Eckler, and I agree with that. When he's off the field, Cliff, baby, let's go. Right up the middle, pound the rock. So that's what I'm expecting. The second he's off the field, you want to become a power run team in the middle of the line of scrimmage.
Well, and that's the other thing too that I hope translates from preseason is Cliff didn't hesitate to let Jaden go hurry up in preseason. And I'm hoping we see a little bit more of that this game, specifically when Lawrence is out like that, or if they just feel like they have a good matchup with their group on the field against the Giants group on the field. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Like, we've talked about this for years. Sometimes you just got to cover up your insufficiencies. And sometimes the insufficiencies for this offense is going to be they're not going to be the best matchup for some teams because of their skill position group. Well, when you do get that matchup, go hurry up. I'd like to see it, like, not right off the bat, but like pretty fast in a game. And to your point there,
they said they were going to do that last week, and I don't really think they did.
They didn't. And that's where I was kind of shocked, because I feel like it's just one of those things that when Jaden starts running too, that defense gets gassed. They're literally chasing him around. So I hope we see a little bit more of that. It's just more, I guess what I'm more venting because we got teased by it in preseason. Like, they showed that they were going to do it. Whereas in years past, we haven't really seen it. And then we're begging them to do it. We know that they can do it. So I hope that, they do it a little bit earlier in the first half.
One other thing on the run game, because I saw a video, it was like 8 minutes. Warren Sharp, who I love and I think does a great breakdown, did an 8-minute video on Washington's run game and was taking issue with Dan Quinn's assertion of the ball should be handed off to Robinson and Eckler, and we don't want Jaden running the ball as much as he did, acknowledging we're going to use his legs, but we don't want 16 rushes, is basically what his point was. And Warren did this whole breakdown where he showed all of the scrambles, and he's like, in some of these cases, he's like, this was the right decision, which is where I landed on some of it. I'm like, his instincts were really good. It's just a little too much. And there were a few occasions where had he slowed down and the internal clock slowed down, I think he would have seen some other things. And that's where I think the improvement is going to come for him. It was just his first go. But then he lined up these two like stat lines, and he's like, when he scrambled, he gained 77 of his 88 yards. And he's like, so don't tell me that you should be designing more runs for him and not just letting him be him. And I'm sitting there going, are you taking into account that 2 of the designed run carries were 1-yard touchdown runs, and that the max yardage he could have gotten was 1 yard? And on those designed runs, he executed them. Like, Warren, come on, man. Like, you're better than that. Like, come on, man. Like, I hear out somewhat of what you're saying, but also you're also better than this too. Don't sit there and tell me that you think a quarterback just running wild all the time on every single play is the path to victory, because it's not. Otherwise, Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson would have multiple Super Bowl rings by now. So would Justin Fields. But guess what? None of them do, because if you don't run a structured offense, you don't win big, period. So I was like, I love his work, but I was like, you are off on this one. And you are making wide judgments about the player and the team after his debut. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, Justin Fields is the epitome of this, where that's what he does. He runs around. He doesn't really run an offense. But it's funny, the Bears tried to force him into an offense, and we were all going, just let him run. It's your best chance to win. And that's exactly what ended up happening. That is not the case here at all whatsoever. We can tell Jaden can actually run an offense, call an audible, run a 2-minute drill. I mean, he showed it all already in preseason that he's got a little bit more than some of those other names you mentioned. I will say this. I will say this too. I liked Kingsbury's line yesterday as well. When he was asked about the runs, he goes, 16 runs. Lamar Jackson had 16 runs, and all he's done is he's the reigning MVP. Like, it's arguable there that he's right. Like, that gives the Ravens the best chance to win. It could give us the best chance to win when that's happening.
Yeah, I think like on the sliding stuff, yes, he needs to protect himself. Was that being just hammered into him in the summer? Sure. Okay. And then this one where you're like, we need to hand the ball to, I want this guy to be himself. I really do. I think they have a special talent in him. And so I do not want to put so many rules on him that he key himself. That said, I think this is for the betterment long term. Like Quinn said this in the middle of camp where he goes, we're not trying to, make him a really good quarterback just right now. We're trying to have him have a very good long career. And I actually appreciate the approach with that. At the same time, there's a little bit of where I'm like, you got to let him be himself a little bit. This is what got him here in the first place. It's why he won a Heisman Trophy. It's why he kept getting better every year in college football, and why you love him, and why since the spring you're like, this guy's way ahead of the curve. Let his instincts take over. I'll hear out the coaching points, but let his instincts take over. All right, one more thing that I want to bring up, and this is where I think also the game's going to be. I expect both teams to turn the ball over here. Like, in fact, I'm putting the over under on turnovers in this game at 3. Like, I think we're going to get a few. If we don't get any from the Giants, it's malpractice by our defense, frankly, considering what Jones looks a little bit limited, very hesitant, not confident. Like, if you don't get a couple of turnovers, whether it's sack fumbles or interceptions or something, you're doing something wrong this weekend. And then this week, Burns and Thibodeau winning on the edge a couple times won't surprise me. So who takes advantage of these? That's the ball game of this too. You get a turnover, you don't score, it's going to bite you in a game like this. You get the turnovers and score, I think the momentum changes immediately and the ball starts rolling downhill. So I think this is a turnover game this weekend.
This is going to be exactly like how the Packers-Eagles game shook out. The Eagles had a terrible start, turned the ball over, and then the Packers didn't score and take advantage, and it let the Eagles back in the game. I think it's going to be whatever team gets the ball and doesn't, score, it's going to come back to bite whichever side that is. You have to take advantage because I also don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game either. So you really do have to score when your opportunities arise.
All right, that's what I think about that one. Let's get to the rest of the week 1 slate next. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I don't know why I teased we were doing week 1. It's week 2. I'm like already just out of it.
Yes,
I watched a little bit of the game last night. I saw the hit on Tua, or actually the hit he gave himself.
Yes.
Actually, like when we talk about guys, protecting themselves, that was the wrong way to do it. And he's paid a price for it. Like, that wasn't a bad hit. In fact, Hamlin looked like he was not trying to deliver a blow and took one that he was surprised by head first from the quarterback. It's just not how you do it. So this is unfortunate. This happened. Clearly he suffered a concussion. We know what his history is. A couple of years ago, that was very scary what happened to him in that season. So hopefully they'll take care of him, and it could derail the Dolphins season if he's out for any period of time. But there is part of me that goes, he did that to himself last night. Like, that's the weirdest part of it. You're like, the guy concussed himself last night. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I was watching pretty much the entire game live, and when he actually took the ball down to scramble, I was like, oh, good play here. He's going to get a first down. But then I literally yelled at the TV, slide, because for some reason he put his head down. Like, that was old school. Like, you're actually not even supposed to do that anymore. And I couldn't really believe he went like that, because you're right. Like, Hamlin wasn't lining him up for this huge hit or anything either. Like, he wasn't trying to line him up. And it's just unfortunate. And I like I said, I watched live, and it's when his hands did the curling up thing. I was like, oh no, like, he's out. Like, there's no way you can bring him back in. I mean, yeah, just, you're having all these former players call him to retire today. I mean, I'm not one to say that. I think you leave it up to the player, but like, this is bad.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is the third time we've seen him exhibit those very scary reactions to a concussion. Remember, it happened. Remember in Cincinnati, he got thrown down and hit his head on the turf. And, it's just frightening when the body reacts that way. It's the third time I've seen him do this. I know it's been in between a couple of years. I just hope they're careful with him, and I assume they will be. They were careful with him a couple of years ago. I hopefully they will be here too. All right. As for the games starting on Sunday, let's see who could back that up. Saints or boys? Saints scored 47 on Carolina, who's not ready for prime time with their new coach. Cowboys, that was impressive. Went up to Cleveland and just roasted them off of Dak getting the money. I don't know that I totally, after week 1, you'd think they're both playoff contenders. I don't know that I totally buy both of them. And, I would, which one is more impressive? I guess it's the Cowboys roasting Cleveland in Cleveland. But this will be a show me game and probably close. And, I don't know that we have some 37-35 game, but that's what it feels like it would be if you watched both these teams in week 1.
I feel like you have to go with the Cowboys here just because of you're weighing their opponents. The Browns are actually pretty good across the board, no matter what Deshaun Watson does or not. And then the Saints beat up on a division rival that we know is basically garbage at this point and going through the same thing that we are in terms of a rebuild, if not a little bit more of a rebuild. So definitely go with Cowboys here. I think they're the real ones as opposed to the Saints.
I think this game's close. I have a feeling this game is pretty close. Like, I really, you think Cowboys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think if this was in New Orleans, I might even call for an upset, but because it's in Dallas, I don't know that I feel that way. All right. This might be game of the weekend. So the Lions have had a heck of a start. They played the Rams at home. Now they play the Buccaneers, who we just saw and are functioning very high. That was a great playoff game between the two of them a year ago. I describe this as they both bite kneecaps these days. This is another one. Like last week, I said Lions, Rams, sneaky, NFC Championship preview. This is another one. Lions, Buccaneers, sneaky NFC Championship preview, because I think the Buccaneers are going to win the NFC South, and the Lions clearly off of week one. There's no letdown. Like they're full Dan Campbell again. So this might be the game of the weekend, honestly.
Yeah, I like the Bucs here, mainly just because I think people kind of forgot they were one drive away from winning that game in Detroit, in the playoffs. They held on, the Lions did. I, thought the Lions were fine against the Rams. I thought they would come out a little bit more hot, though, against that team at home for the opener, and they still had to take it into overtime. I kind of like the Bucs here. I think they're going to get their revenge from the playoff game a year ago.
I like the Lions because I think the Buccaneers suffered too many injuries defensively. I don't know if they're getting their corners back. I don't know if they're getting Kalijah Cansey back. Like, I think if they're as undermanned as they were against Washington, against that team, I think they're in trouble. So I like the Lions here this weekend to win. Let's see. Can the Colts cut the cheese? Let's see. I don't like LaFleur is hinting Jordan Love might play. I have a hard time believing that that's the case because of the injury he suffered. I mean, it was just a week and a half ago. And this is gamesmanship. I think they're just saying it to say it. It's a good sign that he's probably not out for as long as, maybe people initially thought, like a month or more. But I doubt he would play this weekend. And the Colts, I mean, Anthony Richardson is really hit and miss. It's off and on. He's got these big play potential. He's got turnover written all over him. I think you tell the defense, go win this game here. I don't know that I love Green Bay because I don't like their quarterback situation, Clifford or Willis. I just don't think that's a very good situation. I think they're going to find themselves in a hard to score situation. So I think the only way they actually win is no explosive plays from Richardson where he just steals it. And this game's going to have to end up like 20-17 or 17-14 or something like that for Green Bay to get away with it. And therefore, I like the Colts to steal it up there because they just hit a couple of big plays and win that way.
I'm with you. I think the Colts win this because they go to the ground. I think they saw what the Eagles did with Saquon, and they try to do the same exact things with their quarterback and their running back. So I like the Colts here too. I think you're right, though. It's going to be a closer game than people are going to give him credit for with Love out. I mean, I know he might play, but I doubt that's going to happen. Give me the Colts here, and it's not really an upset. It's just more of I think they kind of outlast the Packers in this one.
Yeah, it's not who you play. It's when you play them. They're catching Green Bay at a perfect time with Love injured right now. All right, we're going to find out everything about A-Rod and your boy Saleh this week because not only if they just don't win, if they don't roll the Titans off of the game the other night, then who are they? Because this is a weaker opponent. I don't know that they're weak, but they're weak-ish. And the Jets, if you are a contender, you just brush off that you just lost to the NFC champion and you don't worry about it. And you go down there and you beat these guys badly. So I expect them to do that because I just think they're that level of a team compared to what Tennessee is. But we're going to find out if they are. So we're going to find out if they can RELAX and go down there and take care of business. That's all. But I think my gut says they're going to, that they're going to win by a couple touchdowns.
I'm going full panic mode here. I think the Titans beat them. I think the Titans actually were pretty good against the Bears. The Bears defense is the one that won them that game. And this is the one where I think this happens all the time. And I've told you this. This Jets team is mimicking the 2000 Redskins. When everyone said, oh, they've got the quarterback, they've got all these weapons, they're going to be really good this year. I've seen this before, and they're already looking past the Titans. I think that's actually happening here. I don't know. I just got this gut feeling that to derail a season like the Jets, you need disastrous things to happen, which I think is going to happen, and they lose to the Titans.
I think they're going to win. We'll see. All right. Your boy Ghosts is reborn. Sam Darnold completed nearly 80% of his passes against the Giants. I was watching, I'm like watching it all week. And Kenny Albert was doing their game. And he said that Darnold told them that his rebirth basically was he learned how to prepare at a higher level under Kyle Shanahan, and that he basically thanked him for kind of showing him the way. And now he's gone up to Minnesota, and KOC is raving about him. And he was very good. In week 1, he was very, very good. He's got great targets in Jefferson, obviously. He was very good. But I think this is going to go back the wrong way. Like, I can't see them replicating this. I really don't actually think their defense is that good. And I think they're going to get run over the way the Jets got run over by that machine that Shanahan runs. So I expect the Niners to beat Darnold. But, maybe he looks the part against them too. And if he does, then maybe this is Minnesota's got their Baker this year, where it's a guy who's just bounced around and he turns out to be pretty good for them.
Yeah, this one, it's the 49ers are what I like to call just like too big to fail. They can show up on Sundays and beat other teams without preparation, really. I think if you were to like line things up, they're going to win this game. Nice little story that the Vikings blew out the Giants, week 1, but there's no way they can take out the 49ers.
Let's see. The red zone specials this week are Seattle at New England and Chargers at Carolina. Seattle at New England. That stinks of New England somehow starting 2-0, honestly. Like, I said this after their game against Cincinnati. I said it after the preseason game. I really like their defense. So you get Seattle traveling across the country to play them. They're going to end up in some 16-13 game, and New England might win. So that's the red zone special with no highlights if it's going to be 16-13. And Chargers Carolina, I mean, it can't be as bad as it was, or maybe it is. And if that's the case, then Harbaugh destroys them and wins 24-7. Like, these are the type of teams that Harbaugh eats. So these are red zone special games, though. Just let me know what the results are. Kind of don't care.
On the Chargers, this is one I'm looking for to see. Does Herbert actually look good without his wide receivers? Like, they didn't score enough points for my liking against the Raiders last week. This is you should eat this opponent in the Panthers. I want to see if Herbert actually ends up being really good, because I don't think he was good enough last week.
Let's see. Oh boy. Cleveland gets Trev. If the Browns lose here, I'm going with they don't recover. That they're in the wrong division, because one of them, two of them, maybe three of them are going to be too good to catch. They're going to be dealing with the Deshaun stuff for a while until it's settled. And I'm a little surprised that there hasn't been more movement either by the Browns or the league or somebody, because the allegations against Deshaun were really bad. And then on the field, it was really bad too. Trev and company let one get away. They could have won in Miami last week. So they'd be sitting on a really hot start here. This game is down in Jacksonville. I like the Jags. I don't like what's going on with Cleveland right now. They got roasted. They got problems with the quarterback. I'm assuming he's playing. Give me the Jaguars to win 24-13, something like that.
Do you know what's the name of the stadium down there in Jacksonville?
They changed it. I don't know. They just changed it. Yeah,
they're changing it for one game to be like Lawrence Stadium or Trevor Bank Stadium or something.
Yeah.
I know how I feel about these stupid bits. They always bite the other team, and you know what? Give me the Browns. Give me the Browns. I also, just to use one little bit of logic here, they were up on the Dolphins pretty big, pretty early. They blew the lead.
Yeah.
I hated what I saw from the Dolphins, and I even picked the Bills yesterday on my show to straight up outright win that game. And it was over before Tua got hurt. So don't talk to me about that. But maybe the Jags were a little bit better than we thought last week, and the Dolphins were worse than we thought. I'm saying, sorry, the other way around, my bad. The Jags are worse than we thought because of the Dolphins. I'm going Browns here. I'm not buying the Jags. I'm still not buying the Jags. I know it's a home game, but give me the Browns to bounce back and win.
These should be chalk. Baltimore over the Raiders at home should be chalk. And
yeah.
I think the Rams in Arizona, albeit I know it's a division matchup, and Arizona was very competitive last week. I trust McVay in these situations. So I think those are chalk. Maybe the Rams-Cardinals game isn't a big spread. Baltimore could kill Vegas. That's that's a classic. It just gets out of hand, and it's 24-0 at halftime or something like that.
Did you hear the Kyler Murray Harrison quote this week too?
No.
He was asked, hey, he only got one catch in the game, 1 for 4 yards or something. And he was asked, how do you get Marvin Moore involved in the offense. And he goes, well, that's not my job. That's my offensive coordinator's job. And I'm like, dude, you've been in the league for like 4 or 5 years now. It actually is your job to go to your coordinator and go, hey, we need to get Harrison Jr. some touches here. And like, he didn't say it. It didn't come off as bad as I just said it, but he still said it. That's not my job. And I was just like,
That's not good.
All right, man. Like, come on. Like, the more and more I hear him talk, the more and more I think he's so unserious about football. That's every time I hear him now.
Take the bus.
Yeah. It's your boy.
Is your boy. Let's see. Steelers Broncos. Let's ride. Let's see. I didn't catch who is it Fields again this week? Is it Russ? I didn't even catch.
I think so. I think it's Fields, but I think Russ is still like a game time decision, so they can't rule him out until the end. So
man. Bo Nix, welcome to the NFL. Give me Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins. Pittsburgh wins another one of these Tomlin games. 17-15.
I was gonna say, give me 12-9.
Yeah.
I don't know who's gonna win. It's gonna be 12-9 though.
Yeah, I agree. You're not in Burrowhead anymore, boys. This is actually not good for the Commanders. I really don't want to go to Cincinnati on a Monday night when they're 0-2, that's what they're staring down here. Because most teams don't win there, even though they do. But will they bounce back? Will Chase be better? Higgins is back. You get a better look at the Bengals than you did a week ago. That said, they slow started last year, big time. They're slow starting here. Chiefs look like the machine. Chiefs at home. I assume the Chiefs are going to win. Considering these two typically play close games, it's probably closer than people are probably imagining right now. Give me 27-21 Chiefs, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of high, a little bit high scoring. I think the Chiefs end up winning, though. I'm with you. I don't like the Bengals. Higgins out last week. Chase is getting back into shape. It's not a good time to be the Bengals, essentially, is what it is.
And the last one is we get Caleb's first showcase game. He plays on Sunday night. He's playing CJ Stroud. They're probably going to make some fever dream scenarios of those two playing in Super Bowls against one another in the not too distant future. Caleb was not particularly good in his opener. Stroud wasn't as on point, but made the plays when he need to. Give me Houston here. Chicago does not get a punt return for a touchdown or block punt for a touchdown and a pick six and all that stuff that had them win week one because they should have lost. Give me Houston here to win. And then people start asking what's wrong with Caleb. 31-17, something like that.
I'll go a touch lower.
24-17. How about that?
Let's roll with that. Yeah.
All right. Be right back. Very much the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital. This week's Spirit Spotlight features one of the draft class from 2024, the 13th overall pick, and a local, the Germantown, Maryland native, Makenna Morris. It is great to speak with you, Makenna. Thanks for coming on this week.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. I went to Springbrook High School. I grew up in Montgomery County. Tell me about growing up around here and now playing for the Spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved growing up and living in Maryland. And then, I mean, obviously when I was growing up, the Spirit was in Germantown at the soccer complex, which was amazing. And then now, like, being able to play for them, I just remember, like, going to those games and being like, oh, I hope that's me one day. Like, you know, just one of those far-fetched dreams as a kid. And then for me to now be doing that, I mean, it's so surreal for me. And I mean, it was always a dream. And then to be able to show up every day at Audi Field and see all the fans there and know, like, my entire family's here, my parents, my siblings, my grandparents, uncles. So it's truly amazing to be able to play at home with all my family there.
Tell me about, like, how you grew up in Germantown. Where did you play? What leagues did you play in? How did you get your start in soccer in the area?
Yeah, so I grew up and I played for Bethesda Soccer Club, and we were in ECNL. And then my senior year, I ended up playing for McLean, which we were also in ECNL for McLean. And I mean, I absolutely loved both clubs. I could rave about them and go on and on. I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at without some of the coaches that I was coached by. I mean, they really truly did make me the player I am today. And I grew so much as a kid. I mean, in Maryland, the DMV, there's so many amazing athletes. And I think it all comes down to like the coaches and the people that are in the DMV.
When did you know you were good and that you were going to become, this was going to become something more than just a sport you played as a kid?
That's tough. I don't know. I feel like it was just kind of like I just kind of played because I loved it and I found so much joy. And then I just remember like one day, like me, my sister, and my family, we were sitting around and they were like, "Hey, like, you're good." And I'm like, "Oh, y'all are so funny. Like, you're my family. Of course you think that." But I think it was when I started getting recruited for college, and then I got called into my first camp. And initially I didn't even I was so like struck by like, what is this? Like, what do you mean? Like, I was called in my first youth camp, but like, what is that? And then I think as I started getting filtered into that and then college recruiting and all of that, I think that's when it kind of became real for me. Like, oh, like I can play at the next level. Like maybe I can continue on after that.
Yeah. And so I had heard that you used to sneak into the soccerplex. Is that right? You wanted to get a glimpse of what life was like for the professionals back in the day?
Yeah. I grew up literally right by the soccerplex. And so it was walking distance. Me and my sister, we grew up playing together. So we would always be like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, we're going to go for a nice little walk or run." And we'd go up to the soccerplex and we'd be watching the Spirit play. And we trained there all the time. So, I mean, it was truly awesome just being able to be that close and to see the players and just like, it's literally in my backyard. I'm like, wow, like that's just insane.
And what do you think now? You're playing at Audi Field. It's such a different environment than, what you grew up with and watching and where the Spirit is and where this league is. Like, what do you kind of make of what's happened with the sport in the area and the sport nationally?
Yeah, I mean, I think like growing up as a kid, like I thought like the Spirit games, I was like, wow, there's so many people here. Like this is crazy. And now like watching it be at Audi Field and like being in that, it's crazy that like every weekend, every game, we're seeing insane amount of numbers at our games. And not only just the Spirit, but just in the NWSL as well. I mean, we hit the max, I think, was it 1.5 million recently across the league. And I mean, it's just crazy to think like what the league is doing for women's sports. And then obviously like playing for the Spirit, having Michelle Kang, what she's doing for us is insane. And now we have Magic Johnson as an investor. So I just think what the Spirit's building is absolutely incredible. And it's only helping promote us on the field. And I mean, it only makes us feel that much more special. And I mean, it's incredible.
Let's talk about the team a little bit. You are part of this really kind of team-defining draft class. A couple of your teammates ended up going to Paris with the United States women's national team. What are your thoughts of as you guys come in together here and the season you're having together here?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us rookies, it's crazy. We come in and we're all nervous. And I think like just the environment the Spirit has built has led us to be able to come in and just thrive immediately because everyone instills confidence in you and everybody wants you to be the best. And I think it allowed us to come in and not feel like, oh, I'm scared. Oh, I'm just a rookie. I can't do this, this, and that. And I think it's just been absolutely incredible. I mean, for Croy and Hal to go to the Olympics is incredible. It is insane. And I think that just goes to show like what we're doing in training and in games. Like we're building an environment and we play in an environment that creates absolute dogs on the field.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, for a rookie class, we're doing pretty well. And I think that's the people we're surrounded by as well.
Let me ask you just in general, because I asked you, when did you know you were good? As you looked at this team, it's very new and we were waiting on a permanent coach to come in. There's been a lot of changes, but you guys are still thriving anyway, collectively. When did you guys collectively kind of know we're pretty good here?
Yeah, I mean, I think as the season started, we were kind of just like, oh, we have Adrian coming in and then Jonah's coming in. And that was like all exciting and nerve wracking. But I think for us, it was just kind of like, hey, like, we're it. Like, we're the team. We're going to show up every day. We're going to work hard for each other. And I think because we train against each other, we're playing against the hardest people every day. So I think that just makes games better for us, because if we're training 100% against each other, then we're going to be able to go into games and work with each other to be that much better. So I think, we're having a good season. We're playing really well. And I think it just comes down to our training and how hard we train and just our camaraderie. Just how well we are like doing together. Like, we're so together in everything. And I think that that's helped translate onto the field.
All right, take me back to the performance before the Olympic break where you became the first Spirit player ever to score a goal, get an assist, and draw a penalty. It all happened in a short period of time as well. I don't know if you've ever been part of anything singularly as part of a game where you impacted a game like that.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. I remember Jonah telling me before the game, he had just sat me down and was like, hey, like, you're going to be starting this game. It's no different from anything else. Like, go out there and be you. Like, you've been training well. And I think just him telling me that, it wasn't like I have to go out here and do this, and that. Just, I had to go out there and be myself. And I think just obviously, like, when the team finds out the lineup and just everybody being so happy for me. And I think that just kind of instilled confidence in me. And it wasn't like, oh, this is your one opportunity. It was just kind of like, you deserve this, you earn this. So I think that gave me the confidence to go out there and just play for my team. And so when I was out there, I was just like, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to keep running. I'm going to try and create anything that I can. And I mean, from the help of my teammates, I was able to do that.
All right, last thing. You got a matchup this weekend at home against Houston. Give us a preview. What do you see for the Spirit and the Dash this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two great teams. I think our goal is to come out and to keep building and keep finding our style and, just building off of what we've done so far, but also knowing that we're, leading to something else. We're trying to contend for playoffs and make it far. So I think just continuing to build off of what we've done and, not letting up. Like, the season's not over. So we're going to keep working hard. We're going to go after every game. We want, every win. So I think it's just focusing on us and playing as hard as we can.
Local star from Germantown, Makenna Morris. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that'll do it for today. Full recap of Commanders and Giants. Watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.